Local government is part of our everyday lives, providing services and facilities which most of us take for granted. But why do we have it at all? Why not leave everything in the hands of the central government at Westminster, the professional politicians? Local government, precisely because it is local, is vital to a healthy democracy, taking power out of the centre and giving it back to the people in their own communities. After all, who is better qualified to decide what the needs and issues are in a particular area than the people who live there? The local government system is more accountable, more efficient and more democratic than one which concentrates political power under a single central authority. And Glasgow has a long tradition of speaking out for the right of its people to elect their own representatives, decide on their own priorities and ultimately run their own city themselves. It was the River Clyde and the opening up of trade with the Americas which fueled Glasgow's first major expansion in the 18th century. Tobacco, sugar and cotton were unloaded and processed along its banks, creating enormous wealth for the city's merchants. Then came the Industrial Revolution, and the river, which hosted the last of the great sailing ships, launched the first of the New Age steamships. The population grew dramatically as people came in their thousands from the surrounding countryside, from the Highlands and Islands, and from Ireland to work in the iron and steel mills, the engineering factories and shipyards which made Glasgow the workshop to the world by the end of the 19th century. The economic upheaval which followed the Second World War changed all that, and the city suffered badly from the sudden running down of the traditional heavy industries. A major overhaul was needed to turn this decline around. The city had to completely change direction to take advantage of the opportunities offered by the emerging emphasis on a service-based economy. At that time, the new city council was set up, giving it a much wider part to play in the city's development. Glasgow City Council was established in 1974, replacing the old Glasgow Corporation as part of a revised two-tier system of local government. Scotland's administrative map was redrawn, creating 9 new regional and 3 island councils, with responsibilities including education, the police and fire services, public roads and transport, social work and water services. The 53 district authorities, of which Glasgow is the largest, would now administer housing, cleansing, the arts, leisure and recreation, and share responsibility for the development of the local economy and environment with the Regional Council and the local enterprise company, Glasgow Development Agency. Glasgow is the business and commercial capital of Scotland and the main service and employment centre for almost 2.5 million people in the western central belt. The city itself has a population of just under 700,000 and covers an area of some 75 square miles. Glasgow is currently enjoying a remarkable renaissance as a thriving business, cultural and retail centre, providing almost 350,000 jobs and boasting some of the finest amenities in the country, thanks largely to an energetic and innovative city council willing to work with others for the good of the city. The council is made up of 66 councillors, elected every 4 years and is chaired by the Lord Provost. The real political power lies with the party with the majority of seats. Since the mid-1930s, a Labour administration has run the city, apart from 2 brief periods in the mid-60s and late 70s. Much of the day-to-day decision-making is dealt with by council committees and subcommittees, which handle all aspects of city business, from housing and environmental protection to local planning and economic development.
At the Olmsted junction of
The Council's normal decision-making process is relatively straightforward. A proposal is presented by departmental officials to the convener of the relevant committee, which then scrutinises it. Sometimes councillors themselves will raise issues of interest to them for consideration by committee. For some issues not delegated to committee, the full council may have to decide on the matter. The most controversial and important issues are generally discussed by the majority party group before going to committee or council. The council manages a budget of more than £700 million a year. This money comes from central government grants and local business rates, council house rents, fees and charges for council services, and from the poll tax, which the council has opposed since its inception. The money is spent on cultural, recreational and leisure services, environmental services, and other services, including the cost of administration. But by far the largest expenditure is on housing. In addition, there is a separate budget limited by the Scottish Office for projects which offer long-term benefits to the city, like investment in housing and major amenities. The council borrows money to pay for these, repaying the loans over a number of years. With these resources, its aim is always to fulfill its statutory duties as efficiently and use its discretionary powers as imaginatively as possible. By far the largest expenditure, with over 2/3 of the annual budget allocated, is on housing. The council owns 140,000 houses around the city, making it Western Europe's biggest municipal landlord. The housing department is organised into 16 different local offices. These district housing offices deal directly with tenants, make allocations, collect rents, manage the stock, and handle all improvements and repairs with the help of the Building and Works Department. An ongoing commitment to improving the quality of its stock and the service to tenants has involved the council in a number of major initiatives. A good example of community renewal can be seen here at Castlemilk, where a major post-war council housing estate on the outskirts of the city is being given a new lease of life. Along with these major projects, city housing has also introduced a number of initiatives which have not only improved the standard of housing, but the quality of life for those who live in them. Since the mid-1970s, the council has taken the lead in developing alternative forms of housing tenure. An important contribution has been the development of 29 community-based housing associations throughout the city. Also, in response to residents' demands, around 8,000 properties are now under the control of tenant management co-ops, and a further 3,000 have been bought by community ownership co-ops.
Well, like you can see around you today, the number of rehabilitated tenements and new build housing development which is taking place. Obviously, this work couldn't have been done by one organisation in its own, and although the Housing Association was the major organisation for doing the work on the ground, that wouldn't have been possible without the assistance of Glasgow District Council. The Architects Department of the District Council were the architects on the two projects that you see next to us today, Queen's Cross East and Queen's Cross West, and obviously the designs that are here have won a number of awards. The work in terms of the Housing Association development in this area has been a success because it's involved the local community and the local authority in partnership in taking housing initiatives forward. If that partnership wasn't there, then I think Queen's Cross wouldn't be the place it is today.
As well as all of this, the council has used its discretionary powers to become involved in joint ventures with the private sector. The same bold approach has been taken to the provision of recreational and cultural facilities and to the promotion of tourism and the arts as key components in the city's economy. The council manages some 70 public parks, 43 libraries, including the Mitchell, Europe's largest public reference library, 15 swimming pools, 14 sports centres and 7 golf courses, spending over £50 million a year on the maintenance and development of the facilities. Also under its direction are the city's 9 museums and galleries, including the magnificent Kelvin Grove Museum and Art Gallery, the award-winning Burrell Collection, the People's Palace on Glasgow Green, and the reopened McClellan Galleries on the crest of Sauchiehall Street. These and the others at Pollock House, Haggs Castle, Province Lordship and Rutherglen attract more than 3 million visitors a year. With the occasional exception of the McClellan Galleries, admission is free. The opening of the Scottish Exhibition and Conference Centre in 1985 pushed Glasgow immediately to the front of the market as a host city for major conferences, trade shows and events, a position consolidated by the building of new hotels and the establishment by the Council of the Greater Glasgow Tourist Board and Convention Bureau. Visitors to Glasgow have been consistently increasing as a direct result of the ongoing initiatives undertaken by the Council. The economic importance of the arts was seen to great effect during the city's reign as cultural capital of Europe in 1990, when almost 3,500 special events attracted over 9 million attendances. The year's programme was by far the most ambitious ever staged, involving local, national and international organisations, and drew more than £80 million into the city's economy. Undoubtedly, though, the most spectacular addition to the city's facilities and a permanent legacy of its time as Europe's cultural capital is the new Royal Concert Hall, opened by the Princess Royal in October 1990. The Council set up an independent company, Glasgow Cultural Enterprises, to run this multi-purpose hall which can seat 2,500 people. The auditorium was designed to achieve technical excellence in all aspects. These include a revolutionary computer-controlled stage, providing 36 different combinations of level and layout to cope with everything from a solo performer to a full national orchestra. These then are some of the Council's more high-profile projects.
Lord Provost, the Deacon Convener of the Trades House of Glasgow.
Good afternoon. Yes, indeed. Good afternoon.
The daily business of the Council involves less obvious but equally important duties in running the city. In 1990, the Cleansing Department won the contracts to continue providing city services against stiff competition from the private sector, proving their ability to deliver a top-quality service cost-effectively. Other contracts have been won for ground maintenance, catering and office cleaning, with the Council determined to meet the compulsory competitive tendering challenge head-on, winning contracts and ensuring that CCT doesn't result in a poorer service.
The City Council sets out to provide a range of efficient and effective services in the context of a local government system which is responsive to the needs of the citizens of the area. It's important nowadays also to remember that the City Council, in providing those services, has to demonstrate that the cost of provision internally is no more than the cost of provision by an external agency. If we cannot demonstrate that level of efficiency, we will not be allowed to provide those services.
The Building and Works Department, now known as City Building, has a workforce of more than 2,000 and an annual turnover of around £80 million. It has now been decentralised, with 39 local repair teams, responsible for the upkeep of the council houses in their area, each operating effectively as a small business. The planning and building control departments manage the physical development of the city as a whole, looking always to make Glasgow an even better place to live, to work, or to visit. These are just some of the many functions which the council's 13,000-strong staff carry out on behalf of the people of Glasgow. Other less obvious ones include the Environmental Health Department and the Veterinary Department, which supervises the meat market operation. In addition, departments such as Personnel, Finance and Information Technology provide support services to all council departments. The same commitment to quality, which goes into the council's provision of services and facilities, goes into consideration for its staff.
My message to the individual employees of the council is that each has an important role to play in the future of the council. Everyone must maximise his or her contribution to the provision of effective and efficient services to the citizens of the city.
All members of staff can expect excellent working conditions, backed up by an equal opportunities policy, ongoing employee appraisal and development, and extensive training and educational opportunities. Glasgow has changed dramatically over the last 2 decades. Gone are the old images of neglect and decay. There's a new confidence, a new pride in a city discovering itself on new terms. The City Council has consistently channeled Glasgow's unique energy towards the future, a future with an international outlook based on top-quality service, first-class facilities, and the enthusiastic involvement of its people.